Hello, this is Barry Evans with Penn State University. In this unit, we will discuss how to create a watershed or basin boundary file that can be used within MapShed. Many users of MapShed will already be familiar with using various types of GIS software packages, and for them this task will be quite easy. However, other users will be less experienced or know less about how to create such a file, and it's for them that this unit has been created. With regard to creating a watershed or basin boundary file, MapShed requires that the boundary file be in Esri shapefile format. There are a number of different GIS software packages that can be used to do this. Some options include ArcGIS, ArcView 3.x, or MapWindow, which is the freeware GIS package that is installed along with MapShed. This unit will describe how to use MapWindow software to digitize such a watershed boundary file. In performing this task, we will complete the following basic steps. We will first open up the MapWindow software, and then we will create a blank shapefile in polygon format. After that, we will load various layers to be used as background to aid in visualizing the watershed boundary. We will then add vertices or points to the watershed polygon via on-screen digitizing. After that, we'll make any edits as necessary, and finally we will save the new watershed shapefile when we are done digitizing. Okay, so let's first open up the MapWindow software. If you remember, this MapWindow icon is installed after you install MapShed, as we did in an earlier unit. So to open this up, we double-click on it, and then MapWindow is opened. And the first thing it asks you is whether or not you want to add data to this project. And we can click on that to add our first layer. And what we are going to do is add two different layers to help us visualize the watershed boundary. And both of these are in the demo data set that we had used earlier. So the first thing we're going to do is load a streams data layer, one that we used before. And then we're going to use this button over here to add another layer, add and remove clear layers. So we click on that. And this time we're going to add a digital elevation data set called DEM30 to our view. So we double click on the DEM and the DEM30 and then load the STA file. Remember, the STA file is what we always load when we're dealing with a grid in MapShed or MapWindow. So we load that. Now, the DEM appears on top. In order for the streams to appear on top, we can hit the left mouse button and then drag that down, and the streams will appear on top. After loading the data, we can then decide where we're going to do our digitizing. In our case, for our purposes, we're going to digitize this small sub-watershed down here. So the first thing we might want to do is to zoom in on that area. So we can use the zoom in tool and enlarge it. We can also use this little pan tool if we want to move it around to help us visualize things a little bit better. After that, the very next thing we're going to do is to click on this button to create a new shapefile, in this case a blank polygon file. So we click on this. We then specify that we want to digitize a polygon. We then use this button to browse to a particular location and where we're going to put this new file. I would suggest, well, you can really put it anywhere you want. For our purposes, I'm going to put it in the temp folder. I'm going to call it subbasin and say OK. So basically what we've said is that we're going to create a new file called subbasin located in the temp folder under MapShed. It's going to be a polygon. When we're satisfied that we have specified everything correctly, we then hit the OK button. We are then asked whether we would like to have this layer's projection be the same as the map project window that we are currently working in. In our case, we will say yes, because we would like to have our new shapefile be the same geographic projection as the other two data layers. So we will say OK. This tells us that a new shapefile has been created, and we now need to digitize some new points. So we will say OK. So again, we will digitize this subbasin here, and we are going to start at this upper point up here, and we will use this button called Add New Shape to Current Shapefile. This allows us to add points. It says plus shape. Digitize that. As you can see, as you move around, this box shows you the XY coordinate of any given point that you might digitize. So we will start here, hit the left mouse button, and start digitizing. Trace along the topographic ridge here. And digitize up between these stream segments here. And we get close to the last point, we hit the left mouse click twice to close that. And then here we have our new shapefile, which we can turn on and off. And this new shapefile has been created and is located in the temp folder, or whatever folder we might choose. At this point, we have to add one new piece of information to make this boundary file available for use within MapShed. That is, we have to add a new field called ID, because that's required that every basin file have an ID field called ID, and then we have to give it a value. We do this by opening up the attribute table editor shown up here. We open up the table, then go to this button called Edit, click on that and say Add Field. The field we're going to add is something called ID. The type, we're going to call it integer. We'll keep that width as is, and then we'll say OK. We now have an ID field, and it does not have a value at this point, so we'll click on that, and we'll just give it a 1. It could be any numerical number that pertains to that particular basin. We'll just give it a 1 and say, and click on the Apply button, which saves that, and then we close it. At this point, this file is ready for use within MapShed. That concludes this particular unit on digitizing watershed boundaries. Everything I've just discussed is also included in Appendix D of the User's Guide.